Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I am Deepika, and coming up in the next 30 minutes. South Korean investigators suspend attempt to arrest impeached South Korean President Yoon Suk Yeol. Ruling party demands probe to be conducted without arrest. FBI says Texas man who backed ISIS acted alone in the New Orleans terror attack. Probe in Las Vegas Cybertruck explosion underway to ascertain possible motive. Israeli delegation to visit Qatar today for hostage negotiations. Israeli airstrikes kill Hamas internal security forces chief in Gaza. And in Sydney, Indian batters disappoint on day one as top order tumbles cheaply in the fifth test. Pant and Jadeja steady the ship for Team India. A very good afternoon to all our viewers watching DD India Live. And now let's begin with the latest from South Korea. A day of high drama has drawn to an end in South Korea, with the investigators now suspending an attempt to arrest ousted President Yoon Suk Yeol after a 6-hour standoff with the security team outside his home. The Corruption Investigation Office, which has been investigating Yoon's short-lived martial law declaration, said the next steps will be decided after review, while the opposition party floor leader are urging the investigators to arrest those who obstructed arrest warrant execution. Investigators have until the 6th of January to arrest Yoon before the warrant expires. However, they can apply for a new warrant and try to detain him once again. However, Yoon's lawyer will challenge the unlawful arrest warrant. South Korea has seen 3 presidents in as many weeks, but the crisis in the country seems to be simply compounding. Meanwhile, the Constitutional Court will hold first arguments in President Yoon's impeachment trial on the 14th of January. In the preparatory hearing today, the court will arrange the trial schedule, evidence and witness lists. Yoon was not required to attend the hearing. The Constitutional Court has 180 days to decide whether to uphold or dismiss the impeachment from the day it received the case on 14th December. Now, South Korea plane crash probe intensified as the investigators on Friday began lifting the wreckage of the Jeju airplane that crashed 5 days ago, killing 179 people. The police conducted a series of raids on Thursday and Friday of the offices of Jeju Air and the Muan airport operator as they stepped up their probe. South Korea has also announced the inspection of all Boeing 737 and 800 aircraft operated by its carriers, focusing on the landing gear, which appears to have malfunctioned during the Sunday crash. However, the exact cause of the flight's crash is still unknown. The authorities are also analyzing the flight data recorder with the US experts, examining wreckage and reviewing 107 recovered mobile phones for clues. Meanwhile, South Korea acting president today met the US Ambassador Kohlberg, United States Force Korea Commander Brunson. Now, President Choi said trilateral cooperation with US and Japan should continue. He further added that the policy stance on diplomacy and security will remain steadfast. And now let's go back to the story of Yoon Suk Yeol's arrest attempt. And to discuss more on this, I'm joined by DD India correspondent Anil Thomas. Anil, now the investigators suspended the attempt to arrest the president. Take us through the turn of events brewing since the early hours of Friday morning.
Well, good afternoon, Deepika. Well, very much on expected lines. Remember, these kind of arrest warrants against lawmakers in 2000, 2004. There is a history to it. It's never before happened. Whenever an attempt has been made by the investigating agency to get lawmakers arrested, it's always hit a dead end. and I think very similar to it. The last two times in 2000 and 2004, when arrest warrants were issued, they played their timeline. It's got a validity of a week. It played that timeline, and never any leader could be arrested. A similar kind of fate, though we've almost 20 years ahead, but nothing much changed, especially when it comes to the logjam that investigating officers and team hit. And I think South Korea facing a similar kind of fate this time around too. And I think now we'll have to wait whether the impeachment motion that's been moved, whether that could hit, some kind of, that could make some kind of headway. If that doesn't make, I think Yoon looks safe for the time being. But since that constitution bench has been formed where 8 judges are already there, and the addition of one more looks likely. So you've got a full-strength constitution bench that comes into play. And that's where things could get a bit difficult. But the way Yoon has positioned himself, I think he's getting international support from the world, purely in terms of the world watching South Korea and the political chaos that it is into. Even neighboring North Korea has reported on it, which is surprising. They never do so. And they've spoken about the chaos in South Korea. That clearly indicates that the world is watching. And with neighbors now jumping in and commenting on the situation there, or looking at the situation in South Korea that's developing, it's surely sending some kind of shivers and some kind of mixed feelings within South Korea itself. And South Korea needs to look at ways and means. They've had an airplane crash just before New Year. This political chaos, they are in total disarray at this point of time. They need to get their house in order. The opposition that's been trying for long, the Democratic Party, that's the main opposition, but not much of headway being made.
What is the other option with the investigators right now?
Well, not much. If you look purely in terms of options that are there before them, they will have to once again go back and look at how things develop, especially when it comes to the impeachment motion that's before the court. If that hits a death knell, then they will have to look at viable options that are there before them. But there is mounting pressure from the opposition on Yoon to, first of all, come before the law and see whether, what is his options when it comes to fighting illegally. I think the two best lawyers that are there in South Korea are currently helping Yoon in his fight back. And I think we'll have to wait. What do the lawyers bring to the table? Because today, this entire process where the investigating agency managed to breeze through that particular defense. First, supporters, then the presidential staff that is there at the presidential palace reach Yoon and try to make sense to him about how this could play out. And the top lawyers present there and derailing everything clearly indicates that Yoon has something up his sleeve. And I think this is a long drawn battle that he would see. But I think the first step that he has to take is to safeguard himself and see to it that he lives another day. This particular at least the first arrest warrant that he's against him, could play out this timeline of 7 days and go void. Maybe they look at another way to get him, back in jail or get him under police custody where then we can investigate his role, especially in that particular, announcement that he made. Because Yoon has not come out of the presidential suit since December 12th. So it's unlikely that he's going to come out and, face the prosecutors and, get arrested. So in that likely case, there is no end to the logjam that exists. The investigating agency will have to, go back to the drawing board and find another way to first arrest him and then interrogate him.
All right. Thank you so much, Anil, for joining us and bringing us the latest on the developing story there in South Korea. Moving on to the U.S. President Joe Biden said on Thursday that he learned from intelligence meetings that the U.S. Army veteran who drove a truck into a crowd of New Year's Day revelers had pledged allegiance to Islamic State, but acted alone in the attack that killed at least 14 people. The suspect, who the FBI said was shot dead at the scene, has been identified as Shamsuddin Jabbar. He had posted videos on Facebook on the morning of the attack in which he said he supported the ISIS. Biden said as per the FBI link, there is no link between the attack in New Orleans and the incident in Las Vegas on the same day. Meanwhile, a U.S. Special Forces soldier who blew up a Tesla Cybertruck outside the Trump International Hotel in Las Vegas shot himself in the head before the blast. U.S. law enforcement officials say his motivation is still unknown. Matthew Livelsberger, a member of the elite Green Berets, took his own life in the rented vehicle filled with fuel containers and fireworks, which then erupted into flames. Now, Livelsberger's body was burned beyond recognition. Las Vegas police said he had been identified as the driver of the vehicle and that the coroner had ruled he had died by suicide. Levelsberger, identified through his military ID, passport and credit cards, was found with a gun at his feet. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has approved the return of Israeli negotiators to Doha for the continuation of Gaza ceasefire talks. The negotiations are currently on a standstill, with the mediators reporting substantial disagreements over key terms. The deal would have facilitated the release of up to 30 captives held by Hamas in exchange for Palestinian prisoners and increased humanitarian access to the Gaza Strip. Tel Aviv wants a deal that does not include stopping the conflict and withdrawing fully from Gaza. Meanwhile, Israeli airstrikes across the Gaza Strip on Thursday killed the chief of Gaza's police force and his deputy. Israel said the head of Hamas internal security forces in southern Gaza, the terrorist Hassam Shahsan, was eliminated in an intelligence-based strike in Al-Mawasi, just west of the city of Khan Yunis. IDF said Shahwan was responsible for developing intelligence assessments in coordination with elements of Hamas's military wing in attacks on the IDF in Gaza. It added that the Hamas internal security forces have conducted violent interrogations of the Gazan population, violating human rights and suppressing dissent within the organization. And once close allies, relations between Pakistan and Afghanistan have soared dramatically with frequent cross-border violence. Now, Pakistan last week conducted deadly aerial strikes on Afghanistan's Paktika province, killing 46 people, including women and children. The strikes were purportedly aimed at Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan militants who aims to overthrow Pakistan's government and establish an Islamic state operating from Afghan's territory. Now, Afghanistan's Taliban government condemned the incident, describing it as a blatant violation of all international principles and further launched retaliatory attacks. Now, Afghanistan also summoned the charge the affairs of the embassy of Pakistan in Kabul to deliver a strong protest note regarding the airstrikes. We are heading for a short break, but still to come on DD India Live. Maldives Foreign Affairs Minister Abdullah Khalil in New Delhi for a two-day official visit. And up next, we'll give you updates on changing weather conditions across India. Iran walls narrate the stories of local lives. Up next.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back. After that short break, you're watching DD India Live. Now, Maldives Foreign Affairs Minister Abdullah Khalil arrived in New Delhi on Thursday for a two-day official visit. He will be meeting India's External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar, today. According to the Ministry of External Affairs, the Foreign Minister's first official visit to India highlights the comprehensive economic and maritime security partnership between the two sides. The partnership was discussed during President Mohammad Muissu's 5-day visit to India back in the month of October in the year 2024. Now, he becomes the first foreign minister to visit India in the current year, 2025. Iranian Deputy Foreign Minister for Political Affairs Majid Takht Ravanchi is also in New Delhi. He is expected to hold talks with External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar and Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri. The visiting leader will also participate in the 19th round of Iran-India political consultations. Iran and India have a long-standing historical relationship underscored by cultural and economic ties and formalized by the 2003 Strategic Partnership Agreement. The partnership has flourished, particularly in the fields of energy and trade, with bilateral trade reaching an impressive $17.5 billion in 2022-23. Now, the French carrier strike group, led by the formidable aircraft carrier FNS Charles de Gaulle, has entered the Indian Ocean on mission Clemenceau by 25, setting the stage for pivotal naval engagements. After joint training with regional allies, including India, the group will proceed to Indonesia for exercise Leopard and the Pacific for exercise Pacific Stella. The Charles de Gaulle will dock at Goa and Kochi on the 4th of January. For the 42nd Varun exercise with the Indian Navy, strengthening Indo-French military synergy. As maritime allies in the Indian Ocean, France and India confront threats like trafficking, piracy and pollution through joint operations and the Indian Ocean Naval Symposium, fortifying security and safeguarding freedom of navigation. Now, India and Bangladesh have announced that they have agreed to release the fishermen in each other's custody after they cross the border. According to the agreement, Bangladesh will hand over 95 Indian fishermen to Indian authorities on 5th of January, while India will release 90 Bangladeshi fishermen on the same day. In an official statement, the Ministry of External Affairs said in recent months, several Indian fishermen have been arrested by Bangladesh authorities who inadvertently crossed the international maritime boundary line and entered the country's water. Several Bangladesh fishermen have also been apprehended by Indian authorities in similar circumstances. The Ministry of External Affairs said the mutual exchange of fishermen and their vessels had been worked out, keeping in mind the humanitarian and livelihood concerns of fishing communities on both the sides. Moving on, preparations for the mahak, which is scheduled to be held in Uttar Pradesh's Prayagraj, are in full swing, and rehearsals for ritualistic festivities such as special Ganga Aarti is being undertaken at the confluence of Ganga, Yamuna and Saraswati. To prevent mishaps, the district administration has been taking important steps to ensure the safety of devotees, especially for crowd management and avoiding fire incidents. The district administration has inaugurated new fire stations ahead of Mahakumbh celebrations, where at least 365 vehicles have been deployed to ensure quick responses in case of fire. Moreover, the officials have been asked to carry out awareness campaigns and mock drills so that commoners do not panic in case of a small fire incident. The Mahakumbh is being celebrated after 12 years, and a huge turnout of devotees is expected in Prayagraj from 13th of January till 26th of February. Severe cold weather conditions have been sweeping across northern and northeastern parts of India, with weather officials issuing dense fog alerts across the regions. Airport operations are also being affected due to the dense fog. Let us now take a look at this report to know more about it.
Severe cold wave has engulfed North India as the Indian Meteorological Department has issued cold wave dense fog alerts across the region. According to IMD, dense fog conditions very likely to prevail during late night and early morning hours in isolated pockets of Himachal Pradesh and Madhya Pradesh. Whereas, fog conditions will also exist in northeastern state of Assam, Meghalaya, Nagaland, Manipur, Mizoram and Tripura till 6th of January. India's national capital New Delhi is also experiencing its coldest temperature in years as the city reported significant drop in temperatures, prompting opening of the shelters for the homeless and gatherings around bonfires as residents brace for the chill. Meanwhile, amidst the prevailing dense fog conditions and reduced visibility, Delhi airport authorities on Friday issued an advisory and stated that flights which were not Cat 3 compliant would get affected. Other northern states of the country continued to face the harsh winter conditions as dense layer of fog also blanketed Rajasthan, Punjab and Uttar Pradesh.
Himachal Pradesh has entered New Year with a clear sky, which has resulted in the significant rise in temperature. But the higher region of the state is still under the cold spell. And places like Tabo, which comes under the Lahaul Spiti and the Kinnaur regions, the temperature has fallen to minus 14 degrees Celsius, which has become a problem for the localites and the tourists who are visiting the state. According to the State Meteorological Department, they have issued a possibility of rainfall and snowfall till 7 January across the state. And in the lower regions of the state, a yellow alert of fog has been issued. With camera person Rishipal, Muskan Chaudhary, DD India.
On to sports now. Australia bundled out India on a paltry 185 runs on day one of the ongoing 5th Test match series between India and Australia. India's struggle against pace and seam continued as the visitors could not go past the 200 mark. Jasprit Bumrah-led India opted to bat on a green pitch and lost both their openers KL Rahul and Yashasvi Jaiswal inside first 10 overs. And just when Shubman Gill started to find his rhythm, gifted his wicket to Nathan Lyon on score of 20. Now Virat Kohli then followed the suit through his wicket again to an off-stump ball. Jadeja and Pant did steady the innings but could not continue for longer as both the batters departed post-tea break. Pant, who looked good and patient throughout the innings, threw away his wicket after scoring 40 runs off 98 balls. On the other hand, Scott Boland, with 4 wickets, emerged as the pick of the bowlers on day 1 of the 5th Test series, while Mitchell Starc claimed 3 and Pat Cummins returned with 1 wicket. Moving on, in the winding alleys of Shiraz in southern Iran, artist Apil Yazdi has taken it upon himself to turn his rustic old neighborhood into a cultural and touristic hub through vibrant paintings and carved relief faces. Once neglected, the walls now narrate the stories of local lives, blending art with heritage to attract visitors and revive community spirit. And that's all for this edition of DD India Live. But do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download it right now. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Deepika, and from all of us here in New Delhi, thank you so much for watching DD India Live this afternoon. Namaskar.